Hello there, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for coming back today and hanging out with me in my kitchen. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Martha and this is my kitchen. So today we're going to make some super duper easy bagels with only 3, possibly 4 ingredients, depending on if you want to add some melted butter, which I usually do. So first of all, we're going to get a packet of yeast. You can use instant or you can use active dry. That's completely up to you. I've already have my yeast inside my bowl, proofed and ready to go, and 2 cups of very warm water. I'm just going to mix that all in there. And now we can move on. I'm going to add my half a stick of melted butter. You can add that if you want, or you can leave it out. It really doesn't, I've noticed, doesn't affect the end product. I just like to add it in. It might add a little richness, but I've done it both ways and never noticed a difference. And now I'm going to start adding my flour. Now the recipe calls for 4 to 6 cups of flour, because it all is going to depend on your flour. The batch you have, it's going to depend on how much moisture is in that flour and how dry it is. And also if you're sifting your flour, which I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding in my flour. I generally start with 4 cups. And this is just all-purpose flour. You can use whole wheat flour or bread flour. That's 2, 3, and 4. Just going to begin mixing it together. If you have a stand mixer or a dough mixer, you could go ahead and do this in that, so then you don't have to do all the mixing and kneading by hand. I'm just going to keep working it until it absorbs all that dry flour. And I already have a good dough. You can see that it's starting to form. I'm just going to work it in my bowl for a little bit longer. Now, when you're making bagels, you want it to be a stiffer dough than, say, a bun or loaf bread dough. This is already pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit more flour because it is still just a bit sticky, but I'm going to turn it out onto the counter and work the flour in there. I'm just going to put about a 1/4 cup of flour on the counter. Now, as I said, it's going to be a lot stiffer. Right now, if this was going to be buns or a loaf of bread, I would stop and not add any more flour. But because this is going to be bagels, it needs to be a little stiffer. Just going to keep kneading it into the flour. It's already a beautiful dough. How is the weather where you are? It's actually going to be a lot better than it has been for a while today, and we're going to hit the 60s this week. I'm in South Central Kentucky. What's the weather doing where you are? Is it still pretty cold and snowy, or are you going to get pretty warm too? I know we're all ready for a thaw. Kentucky has been cold and snowy and wet and rainy and just kind of gross this whole winter. So I am ready for spring. And I know that this warm up isn't spring, not yet, but I'm okay with these fall springs. At least it gives us a break from winter, at least for a few days. Now I've got most of that flour worked in. My dough is not very sticky. It's pretty stiff. That is actually perfect for a bagel dough. So that was about 4.5 cups. But you keep adding flour until it gets to that point where it's a nice stiff dough. It doesn't, see, it barely stretches when I hold it up, and it's not sticking to me. It's not sticking to the counter. It's not wet. It's perfect. Now you just need this. If you're going to do it by hand, you just knead it until it passes the window pane test. If you're kneading it in your stand mixer or your dough mixer, I would say probably like somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes. I've tried like 4 different bagel recipes, and this one is my favorite. It's just so much easier, and I'm all about easy. Alrighty. I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish kneading this off camera, and then I'm going to oil it, put it back in my bowl, cover it, and let it stand for about 30 to 60 minutes until it doubles in size. And when you press down, it doesn't like spring back immediately. It comes back, but it comes back slowly. And I'll meet you back here at that point. All right, as you can see, this has risen, and I'm going to just push the air out, punch the air out, turn it out onto my counter, and we're going to cut it into 16 pieces. We're going to cut it in half. Cut each half in half, and cut each fourth into fourths. Now, if you want them to be exactly equal, you can go ahead and weigh them out at this point. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to cut them into 4 equal parts. Do that with each part, and that'll give us 16 bagels. All right, last one. And now I'm going to shape the bagels. Just going to make a nice tight circle, pinch the bottom, and then I'm going to take my pointer finger, push it through, take my thumb and meet them together, pull a hole, and then just make that hole nice and big. Make it much bigger than you think it needs to be, because it will shrink pretty well closed. Alrighty. We're going to just roll these all out and form them into bagels, and then we will let them rise for about 10-15 minutes. And what makes a bagel different than a regular roll is we're going to boil these in a water bath. And to the water for the water bath, I usually add either some honey or some baking soda, or you can just add some salt. One time I forgot to put anything in there, and honestly they cooked up just fine. And you add the flavoring after you boil them in the water. And the boiling them in the water is what gives them that nice, chewy, well, it's more of a crispy outside and a chewy middle, because you're double cooking the outside. And that's what makes it different from a regular bun. Now you don't want to pull too hard or you'll tear the dough and then your bagel will be in half. See, look how the holes are already starting to close, and I had them very large. So if you don't make them bigger than you think they should be, you won't have a hole in the middle of your bagel when you go to put it in the water bath. And I looked it up to see why a hole is put in the middle of the bagel. And it is said because the bagel dough is much more dense, it allows that center to cook more evenly, so you don't wind up with a raw middle. Made sense. However, you can do, if you wanted like a pretzel bun, you would just want to be careful on your size if you wanted to do a pretzel bun instead of a traditional bagel. Now with bagels, you really don't want them to touch during the rising process because you want them to be able to easily be picked up and put into the water bath. And if they touch, they will stick and misshapen. And they're already rising, you can see it while they're sitting here waiting for me to finish up. Looks like it's going to be very tight, but I'm going to make it work the best I can. If I have to leave one rising on the counter while the water boils, then I guess that's what I will have to do. like I said, I really don't want these to touch. I might be able to get this one on there. Alrighty, now I have my water on to boil. I'm just going to grab my baking soda. Got 1 tablespoon of baking soda. Alrighty, and now by the time this comes to a boil, those bagels will have risen and be ready to go. And this is just a regular size soup pot, and I can usually fit between 5 and 6 bagels. All right, the water is boiling and the bagels have risen. I have my spider to take the bagels out of the water. You're going to want a metal spoon, some kind of slotted spoon. It is boiling water, so plastic will work, but metal is probably best. I'm just going to pick the bagel up by the hole and drop it into the water. The reason why I'm picking it up by the hole is to open that hole back up in case it started to go closed. Alright, I was able to fit 5 comfortably in the water bath. Now we're just going to cook them on the first side for 30 seconds and then on the second side for 30 seconds. I set my timer for a minute, so when it gets to 30 seconds, I will flip them. This part is really easy, and it really makes a difference in the texture of your bagels. Coincidentally, if you were to shape these like a soft pretzel, and it's the same steps, same dough, and then you just boil them and bake them. Whoops, I let it go a little past. It went more about 45 seconds, but that's not going to hurt them. I'll just give this side a few more seconds. And then I have 2 baking sheets. I'm going to put 8 bagels on each baking sheet. That way, if I want to make 2 different flavors, I can. And I found by putting them on 2 different cookie sheets, it's much easier to keep the flavors separate from one another. Alrighty, these are ready to be taken out. Just drain off the water and place them onto the cookie sheet. And they will continue to rise just a little bit while they sit here and wait to be baked. And then, oh, that got me. Ouch! And then when we bake them, we'll bake them at 400 degrees for between 10 and 25 or 20 minutes. Every oven is different, and I found that mine, it just depends on what mood it's in that day. Alrighty, I'm going to boil the rest of these. How you top the bagels is going to be 100% up to you. I don't have any everything bagel seasoning, so I'm going to do some garlic and herb and some onion powder, garlic, and Parmesan cheese. I'm going to start with the garlic and herb. This is just garlic powder. It's really easy. I mean, there's no science to topping a bagel. You just top it. And you could put an egg wash on these before you top them if you want, but I do find it is best to do it while they're still wet. The topping stick better. Alrighty. Now we'll do the garlic, onion, and Parmesan. If you had poppy seeds, or if you want to leave them plain, whatever you want, sesame seeds, whatever floats your boat. Oh, I forgot to put some onion powder. Boy, you can smell that garlic, that's for sure. Alrighty. Now these are going to go in the oven, 400 degrees, for approximately 20 minutes. But I would set my timer for 10 minutes, check them, and see if they're golden brown. If they're not, I would let them go for a few more minutes, up to 20 minutes. Like I said, every oven is different. So I'm going to pop mine in the oven and we'll come back and take a look at them when they're all done. I like to put mine in the middle rack so the bottoms don't get too crisp. Here's the bagels, all done and beautiful. And we're just going to place them. You can place them on a cooling rack if you have one, or I'm just going to place mine on a towel. And let them cool down, and we'll cover them with a second towel. And we'll cut them when they're fully cool. If you cut bread before it's fully cool, it can kind of seem a little doughy, even though it's fully cooked. Oh, these smell so very good. These Parmesan ones are looking amazing. Oh man, the smell. If I wasn't hungry before I started this project, I'm definitely hungry now. Smells so very good. All right. Our next project will be my favorite and easiest hamburger and hot dog recipe. It is literally just 3 ingredients, and they taste amazing, and they're nice and fluffy, and they don't fall apart. That's the most important part. They hold together with a good juicy burger with all the fixings. They are very good. So have a great day, and thank you so much for watching me, and I hope you try making these bagels.